always my advice. So my topic today is what's in your toolbox. I heard a speaker last summer who wrote the book Quiet. Her name is Susan Cain. Has anybody read that book? A few hands here. So it was a fascinating talk for me to hear when she talked about when she was growing up, she went to summer camp. And she went to summer camp for like 9 weeks of the summer, just an intensive camp. And the first year that she went to camp, she was all excited. And then she got there and she had packed a big suitcase full of books and then a little backpack with some clothes. And as soon as her mom and dad dropped her off, the counselors started teaching them this cheer that I think we all know. It was ROWDIE, that's the way let's get rowdy. And she's thinking, why did we have to get rowdy? And why did we spell it wrong? And every day they did that cheer every morning and before all meals. And she's thinking, I just want to read my books. She thought she was going to camp to relax and read her books. Now, she still had a good time there, but it really made her think. She then went on, by the way, she went to law school because that was sort of what people in her family did, what her parents expected her to do. Had a career on Wall Street in one of the big high-powered firms out there, but the whole time was thinking, I don't think this is really me. This is not really my style and really what I'm looking for. And finally, after many years, opened up her own practice and kind of became, for the first time in her life, what introverted self. And that's what the book Quiet is about being an introvert. Now, you'll quickly find out I'm not an introvert, I'm an extrovert. And I was still fascinated by that book and thinking about what was in her suitcase. And so it kind of made me think about the same correlation to that, or what's in your toolbox? What do you have with you that you want to do, that you do well? What tools do you know, especially for you students, well, for all of us really, but specifically for the students as you go to the career fair and you're talking to different companies about what your skills are and what you can do and what you can't do. You know, I think if someone had asked me 10 years ago, what do you do well, or what's in your toolbox? I would have said, well, I do HR, I'm an accountant by trade, so I know how to do accounting. It's not what brings. We think in terms of what's in our toolbox is what we do, not really why we do them or what our personality is or what our true style is. So I think if I looked in your toolboxes, where my clicker is here. I did practice this before it was working. Oh well, I'll see. There we go. Let me see if that works now. Yeah, there we go. And it's a pop-up on my screen. So if you think about what's in your toolbox, do you have a whole mess of tools in there that aren't being used very well? Maybe you don't even know how to use them. Do you have some really old tools that are hanging on the wall? Do you have a whole selection of tools and they're very anally hung up in your garage, all in order and lined up perfectly? You might not really ever use them, but you got a bunch of them hung up there. Or I don't really even have a toolbox, but if I did, this is what would be in my toolbox. Do we have a toolbox? This is what would be in my toolbox, because that would be the only three things I would know what to do with anyway. But I might just have, and I'm barely on those three, right? I try and stay away from hammers and screwdrivers. Is that is screwdriver? Yeah. And then are you the guy that have all the tools you think you need and you take them with you everywhere you go and you're going to be prepared and ready for any kind of situation that you might run across? So my point of this is thinking about what do I do and what do I do well? Now, strength finders, which you each got to be strong at, and not only the what, but the why. Why do I do the things that I do? Is it because my strength is communication? Is it because my strength is strategic? Is it because my strength is that I'm competitive? Whatever that might be for you, that probably is what's driving, sort of behind the scenes driving in your toolbox, driving some of the choices you make. If you want to think about it a little bit broader, those same 34 strengths are grouped by Gallup. The Gallup that we hear about all the time is doing all of our polls and surveys and reports and analysis on different questions in our world. They're the ones that developed the Strength Finder tool. So they took the 34 strengths and put them into 4 domains. So if it's easier for you to think about it that way, relationship-oriented, influencing, strategic, or executing. What is your style? And if you notice, Brooke, thank you for making color copies of this, which I don't think I pointed out, but the colors actually have significance on here, and that the color groupings are the ones that are grouped together in the same domain. So if you see yourself circling a bunch of words that have yellow next to them, that means likely that you're strong in the influencing thing. Or if you have a lot of purples, then you're strong in the executing thing. Now, does that mean if you have, 3 or 4 of your strengths might be in influencing, does that mean that you can't get anything done because you don't execute? Absolutely. 4 of these things every day, right? We all influence, we all are strategic executors, and we build relationships. Maybe some of us more than others, and certainly all of us do it in different ways. But we all do them. It's just what I like to call thinking about our superpowers, maybe. What's our super tools? What are our best tools in our toolkit that we could pull out? I mean, we could, every one of us in this room, have the exact same toolbox at our house, right? But what are our go-to tools? What are our tools we rely on? What do we depend on? What do we go to time and time again because they know we work for us? So for some of you, it might be being strategic, other people being relationship builders. So if you're struggling with some of the words, think about the 4 domains as well. Talk about that. I don't want to get too deep into the line of strength finders, but I do have to mention, because a lot of people think when they do this, or for those of you who raised your hand and know what your strengths are, you might think like, oh my gosh, all of my strengths are in relationship building. I don't have anything in execution, or I don't have anything in strategy. Well, again, doesn't mean you're not doing those things. Doesn't even mean that you're not good at those things. It just might not be your superpower. But our goal, despite what we might have heard for many years, is growing up, especially maybe the 85 grads. I don't know so much about the millennial grads, but we were kind of taught that we needed to be well-rounded. That we needed to play a sport and play a musical instrument and have a job, and, we needed to do a little bit of everything. Well, that's not necessarily true. If you have it, that's great, but you still have a dominant domain in you. The goal is not really to be well-rounded as an individual. So if you're not, that's good, or that's okay. But teams should be. So we're not going to talk about teams much at all today, but I'd just like to make that point. If you're working with a team of people, you want people to have different strengths, right? Different skills. You want to have the people with superpowers and strategy and relationship and influence. And you don't want a whole team of people who sit around and are awesome at building strategy and nobody to get it done. But individually, we don't have to strive to be all those things. And again, I think that's the way we're we're taught we have to be business developers, and we have to be top technical people, and we have to be the best relationship builders, and we have to do it all at the same time. When if we really would just focus on the one increase, right? It's about 66% increase. Nice, might be worth a day spent in a speed reading course to get from 90 to 150. But a handful of those students that were the top, the best of the best at the beginning, they could already read 350 words a minute before the class started. Now, what might you think if you were one of those people, that you could already read 350 words a minute? And you're good. Yeah, that it probably wouldn't improve that much. You might even want to leave, right? I mean, that's what I'd probably be thinking, like, I'm already 4 times faster than almost everyone in this class. What the heck am I going to learn from this today? How could I possibly get better? Especially now that I've told you that the other students just got to 150 at the end of the class. So, what do you think their score was at the end? Steve says maybe it didn't improve at all. 500, okay, so improved, but not 66%, not at the same rate. Does anybody even think possibly they went down? I get that sometimes. Some people think, you know, like they're bored and they weren't paying attention, so they actually got worse at it. Their score was 2,900. It's almost 9 times better at the end of the day. Now, speed reading is not a strength. It's not, well, it is a strength. It's not a Gallup strength that is on your list that I handed out. But let's think in terms of it was, or if your strength is strategic, and we had a way to measure that. And at the beginning of the day, your strategic score was 90, or your strategic score was 350. It's the concept of thinking about what we do well, that when we use it, we can improve 9 times more than something that maybe we're not that good at to begin with, or maybe we're not that passionate about it, or it doesn't bring us energy. Yet what do we do in many organizations? You know, we send our worst salespeople to sales training because we think it'll make them better. And we might not send our best people thinking, oh, they're already good. We don't need to train them anymore. They're already at the top of their game. So we might be focusing our efforts on the wrong things. Or for the students, you know, if accounting happens to be your favorite class, but you spend all your time on your art history class. I'm not telling you you shouldn't make a good grade in art history too, but we get consumed by the things we're not doing well at, or we're not that into, putting our time on what we really want to do well, where we really want to focus. So again, from Gallup studies, they say people working in their strength zone. And so I thought, well, what does that mean? What does it mean if you're working in your strength zone? So I did a Google search of different, this is what some of the things that came up when I Googled strength zone. Things that we feel comfortable with, right? Our reality, our work zone, our comfort zone. We're calm, we're in the zone. We're getting stuff done, we're making stuff happen. We're feeling good about where we are. Now, by the way, that's not to say we shouldn't challenge ourselves, right? Or step out of the box or do some different things. This is not all about being comfortable all the time, not stretching ourselves. But people who work in their strength zone look forward to going to work, have more positive interactions, treat customers better, tell their friends they work for a great company, and achieve more on a daily basis. All right? We all want to be in environments like this where we can make these things happen, or we're surrounded by people. One more, have positive, creative, and innovative moments as well. I will also tell you, when I Googled strength zone, I'm not just so, you know, I'm not just pulling up all the cool things. Danger zone also came up, and so did twilight zone. So there is, if you know, I talk about the top 34, and it's not that we only have 5 strengths, it's that Gallup encourages us to only think about our top 5 Because more than that is really too much for our brain to handle sometimes, or to focus on, oh, I'm going to focus on 14 things. You know, it just gets a little much. So 5 just seemed like a reasonable number for us to try and remember what they were. And the founder of our lives focused on our top 5 strengths. So why add 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10? But you might think that if you knew all 34 of your strengths in order, that your greatest weaknesses would be number 34, right? And then number 33 and 32 and 31. Really? Our greatest weaknesses can be those same words you circled, those top 5. Because what we're really good at, sometimes we go a little overboard on what those are, or communication, for example. If your number 1 strength is communication, maybe you just can't quit communicating. You know, maybe you're the one who's always sending out emails to the group, or always oversharing information, or always asking questions, or I'm gonna have you move around a little bit. I'm gonna show you a line on the screen. And if you almost always do this, I'd like for you to stand up. If you sometimes do it, put your hands on the table. And if you never do it, I want you to put your hands on your lap. Or if you guys up here, you can put them down at your side. Okay? So here we go. Stand up if you almost always talk to people in elevators, airplanes, and grocery stores. So if you look at the list I gave you, what strength, and if you know your top 5, it doesn't have to be one of them, because it might be your number 6 or number 7. What strength might that be that you might have that would encourage you to talk to people? There's no one right answer, by the way. So communication, yep. I would say be on the ground on this. What strength might you have if you have a color-coded or otherwise organized closet? Discipline. Very good. Analyzer. Mm-hmm. What? Arranger. I even have a ranger and I don't do this, but it very well could be that too. Yeah. Focus. All right. You know, I didn't ask that question on the one before too. What strength might you have if you're annoyed by people who talk to you randomly? That could also be discipline. It could be focus. You're very focused on what you're doing. It could be maximizer if you're trying to maximize your time. So, hear those. All right, stand up if you almost always write down the list of things to do and stick to it. Oh, a lot of people on this one. What might your strength be on this? See how if you're not standing up, or you're the opposite of the people who are, how sometimes you might be thinking, what? Like, I'm thinking, why would you have a color-coded closet? Why would you do that? Because that's not our strength. That's not something that's important to us. But it's important to understand that to other people it is. So we all have our own styles. All right, what about stand up if you almost always push the elevator button to remind the elevator that you are there? What might this one be? What might this one be? Impatience, yeah. Command, ooh, I like that one. Very good, command is good. Want to be in charge, yeah. Yeah, could also just be the focus or discipline coming out of there too. Stand up if you almost always need alone time to think before making. A lot of people on that one. What might that one be? Analytical, very good. Deliberative, yep. Yep, could be strategic too. You want to sit and think about that. Stand up if you almost always ask too many questions. A lot of people on, oh wow, a lot of people on that one. What might this one be? Could be analytical, learner. Could be ideation too. Ideation. Very good. All right. So a few more Gallup stats. to maximize your potential. People who learn to use their strengths every day have almost 8% greater productivity, and teams who focus on it have 9% greater profitability. So studies say it really works. All right, did everybody get a pen when you came in? Most people, hold on for a minute until I say go, okay? But I would like for you to write this sentence 3 times. I'm proud to be a Purple Ace. Okay? Not till I say go. No. Who's cheating? Raise your hand if you're cheating. Oh, look at all these people. Bunch of cheaters in here. Okay, are you ready? Switch hands. Use your opposite hand and go. Eric was the winner. Did anybody else finish? Sorry, I didn't really tell you what to do if you were done. Eric raised his hand. Are you done too? I think this guy's got competition, Eric, so. All right, if you're still working, you can still finish it. But so when I gave you the instructions to do this, how did that make you feel? Before I told you to switch hands. I guess you might have been thinking, why is she having us write this down? But other than that, did you feel pretty good about the assignment?
Giddy.
Yeah. Giddy, that's it. So you were comfortable with it, understood the directions, knew what the goal was, write it 3 times. Now what about when I asked you to switch hands? How did that make you feel? Challenged? Frustrated? Disturbed? A little bit of challenge. So think about if you're coming into work every day and you know how to get the job done, but your boss or your company or the policy tells you you have to use your left hand to do it. How frustrating that might be for you. You have a strength, you know you can do it, you know you can accomplish this task, but they're asking you to do it by not using your strengths. And again, this doesn't mean the goal is you can't challenge yourself or you can't step out of your comfort zone. But if you had to go in and do it every single day, if communication was not a strength for you, but you were in charge of communications or a main part of your role every day had you doing something that was not a core strength of yours, or better said, on the opposite, if you are able to go to work every day. Our jobs are not perfect, right? We all have to do some things that are not the most fun or not the most exciting parts of our day. But if you even think, if you could 50% of your day use your strengths throughout the day, personally and at work, how much better you might feel, how much more comfortable, how much more satisfied with your job you would be, how much more engaged you would be, how you would feel good about the quality of life, how you would feel good about going to work every day. That's the concept of using our tools in our toolbox, doing what we do well over and over again. Donald Clifton, the founder of Strength, said, what will happen when we think about what is right with people rather than fixating on what is wrong with them? Just think about if we could do more of that every day, how much better we might feel about us if the people around us felt that about us too. Thinking about what is right with people rather than fixating on what is wrong. All right, so I asked you, some of you know, several of you knew what your top 5 strengths were. For others, I asked you to, go through and kind of think about what they might be. Technically, these top 5 are our talents. They don't really become a strength unless we practice them, unless we work with them, unless we apply them. We have to keep going, which is can be a little bit difficult concept to think about because you think, well, you're telling me this is natural for me, and now you're telling me that I have to work on it and I have to practice it. Well, it could be like if you're a natural golfer, but you practice more golf, you might already read 350 words a minute, But if you practice new skills and go to training, you might read 2,900. So it's not, we can always get better, right? No matter where we are, no matter what we do well, we can do more of it. So thinking about these tools in our toolbox, right? If we have these talents that are natural to us, we have these tools, but we let them get old and rusty, or we're throwing them in the drawer and we forget what we have, or we can't find them when we need them. We forget what our true talents are. They're not going to get used, just like our toolbox. So I'm going to show you a quick video from Gallup. Talks about some of the same things I've told you, plus some new ones. And let's see. Oops, how was that?
Is zillion a real number? No, zillion's not a real number. But it is a word you might be tempted to use if you tried to list all the talents found among humankind. Creating a list of every talent is an impossible task, but if you step back, you'll see that talents often have something in common, a theme that connects them. Some talents, like a natural tendency to share thoughts, to create engaging stories, and to find the perfect word, relate directly to communication. That's what they have in common, their theme. So to begin thinking and talking about them, we can call them communication talents. The Clifton Strengths Finder measures the presence of talent in 34 general areas or themes. Your Clifton Strengths Finder report includes a ranked listing of the 5 themes that hold your most dominant talents, your signature themes. Similar to your fingerprint, the sequence of your themes is unique to you. The odds that someone has the same 5 signature themes in the same order as you are 1 in 33 million. In 33 million. Your report is a beginning, not an end. Take this opportunity to explore your talents, harness their power, and bring them to life every day. Try this. First, name it. To begin making your signature themes your own, grab a highlighter. Carefully consider each theme description in your report. Highlight words and phrases that specifically resonate with you. You'll know you're highlighting the right things when you hear yourself say, "That's me." Next, claim it. Post your signature themes and the words or phrases you have highlighted in a place where you'll see them every day. Share your report with people close to you. Ask for their reaction. Then, aim it. Pick one of your signature themes and think about it for a day. Ask yourself, how can I use this theme today? Where can this theme make a positive difference in my life today? Begin to flex this theme by using the action items provided in your report to hone your talents and distinct muscles. Strengths can wither if they're not exercised regularly. What will be your daily practice to stay in tip-top shape? Once you are deliberately using this theme every day, focus on another signature theme. As you start to flex each of your signature themes, you'll find ways to build on your greatest areas of potential. Our talents are an instinctive and intuitive source of wisdom and power. When we begin to intentionally tap into this power, we gain the ability to transform every moment, every interaction, and every day. You have dynamic talents just waiting to be unlocked and developed. Use your Clifton Strengths Finder report to name, claim, and aim your signature themes.
And these again there's 34 themes. The key word to this too is that these are themes. They're not definitions of you as an individual. How I use one of my strengths, someone else might have the same strength, and by using a strength I have. So I met with a lady yesterday who had all of her strengths were in relationship building. And she was a little panicked. She was an intern, by the way. She was still in college. And she was a little panicked that people might perceive her as someone who can't get things done because she didn't have execution. And I said, do you get things done? And she said, yes. And I said, well, it might be that what drives you to get things done is because of your relationships. That it's important for you to make a good impression on your boss. It's important for you to be perceived by others as I do get things done, as I make things happen. So again, it's her why is driving her a little bit differently than someone who's all execution. They might get things done, they might get them done really quickly, but they might not build relationships by doing it. Sense? Now, you could say the opposite of that too. People with a lot of execution and no relationship buildings might be building relationships because they're executing and getting so much done. People trust them, they depend on them because they make things happen. So it's the drive to why we do it, not our what. So there's a few tips here then on how do we make that happen. We can leverage it, we can create a support system, we can find someone else who does it, and we can educate to some extent. Just I made the comment about the speed reading, you know, the people with 90 may never get to 2900, but we can learn some skills and learn to do some different things. The support system one is one of my favorites. A lot of people who know me, when I talk about strengths, they always say, I bet you have discipline. Well, put a bowl of chocolate in front of me, I have no discipline whatsoever. But I do get up most every morning at 5:15 in the morning and go run. So people think, oh, wow, she's really disciplined about running. No, I'm not. I go with a friend every day, and if my friend can't go, I don't go because I don't have the discipline to do it on my own. I'm using my strategic and my maximizer to think, okay, I think this is important for me that I exercise, and I know if I don't do it at 5:30 in the morning, it's not going to happen to me. It's not by any stretch because I have discipline. So that's not my why. That's not what's driving me to do that. If you have questions on this, if you take the assessment, remember, to me, it's not about the StrengthsFinder assessment, although I love it and I do a lot of training on that concept. It's about understanding who you are. The StrengthsFinder assessment, I think, just helps articulate that with you. But if you took it once, and would you get the same answers? Well, most likely they might switch orders a little bit. And this, I don't know if anybody's a psychologist. Is anybody a psychology major in here? You know, they say, research says our personality is set at about the age of 4, and it doesn't change. And so theoretically, your strengths won't change either. We are who we are, good or bad. If other people think that, we're not really changing, so your strengths won't change every time. Do I need to know all 34 in order? You can pay to get that. Costs you $15 to take the assessment. Costs $75 to find out all 34. I encourage you not to, because I think you should just focus on your top 5. Having said that, I know all 34 of mine, so I like to throw that out there. But the concept in the video, I think that's naming it, is naming what are my strengths, what are my key tools in my toolbox. Claiming it then is sort of understanding that, sharing that with others, talking to other people. Do you see this in me? Do you observe this? How do I use this? Sometimes what's obvious to other people is not always so obvious to us, or maybe it's so natural for us to do it, we don't even understand that other people aren't doing it. So the competitive, I think, they can all be that way, but competitive people can't get that other people aren't competitive sometimes. So it can just be natural. You don't really think about it as a strength. And then aiming it is making that decision. I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to try and practice this strength. I'm going to use it positively. I'm going to make this a part of my life so that it will work. The name it, claim it, aim it is Gallup's thing. I also like this one I found, which is learn it, love it, live it. If we just make it a part of our life, learning what our strengths are, what we're good at, what drives us, loving it then, kind of understanding, I love this about me. I know there's some downside to it, a danger zone in some of my strengths. I have to be careful with them. One of my strengths, for example, is positivity. And you think, well, what could be bad about that? Don't we want to be around positive people? Well, I could be so positive sometimes that I'm a little bit naive about, oh, I could be fine, we can do this. I can get downtown and park and walk 3 blocks in 20 minutes, I'm sure it'll be fine. You know, I over assume things will work out. So there can be a little underbelly to everything. Favorite quotes as it relates to thinking about using your strengths as a team. Mother Teresa said, "What I do, you cannot do, but what you do, I cannot do." Then these are great, and none of us, including me, ever do great things. But we can all do small things with great love, and together we can do something wonderful. This actually also leads me to, I talk a lot about strengths, knowing your strengths in the workplace, but it's also a concept that can help you be a better parent, a better spouse, a better teacher, a better educator, and I also teach this in my church. The concept of using it in your faith life or in thinking about community service. How might I best utilize my strengths to help serve others and to choose different ministries or to be a part of it or to use it for some of the daily or weekly practices. How can I use my consistency, my discipline, my strategic whatever to help me in my faith life or community service or whatever that might be for you. So super powerful on that too. This is my signature on my email, and I point that out just because we put our strengths on our email. That's just one tiny little way for us at Purple Ink to think about our strengths and to remind each other what our strengths are. Some people put them on their cubicles in their office or, in their home or have different ways to keep their strengths in front of them. When I first took the assessment, I would make sticky notes of my strengths and put one on my computer screen every day to help remind me to think about that strength and how if I was on a phone call or in a meeting or I would think, how can I use my positivity right now? Even if maybe I wasn't feeling all that positive at the moment, or how can I view this strategically? How can I use this to help me be better? So if you are interested in taking the strengths assessment, you can just Google Strengths Finder, which would be probably faster for you, and you won't have to write it down, but you can also go to gallupstrengthscenter.com. It costs $15 to take the assessment. There are about 12 different books out there on Strength Finders, all of which include a code to take the assessment as well, and the books cost about $21, and you get the $15 code in it. So if you're a reader, then you get a kind of a double whammy in there that you're only paying $6 more, and you got the book. So here's my purple actions for today.